Hey everyone. So once again, let's start out by thinking about something you're grateful for. It could be the fact that rain is coming in the forecast. I'm excited for that, for all these fires that we have going on. So just think of something that you're grateful for. Feel free to share in the chat something that you are grateful for. And let's think of all the good things today that we can be celebrating. And we will start with some box breathing. So I want you to just find a comfy spot, sit down, ground yourself, and we're just going to really relax and shift into that parasympathetic state. So the box breathing is you're thinking like a box. So you're going to inhale for 4, you're going to hold for 4 seconds, you're going to exhale for 4 seconds, and then you're going to hold that exhale for 4 seconds. So take a couple breaths and just kind of get relaxed, relax everything. And inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, hold, 1, 2, 3, 4, exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, hold, 1, 2, 3, 4, inhale, hold, exhale, hold, inhale, hold, exhale, hold, inhale, hold, exhale, hold, inhale, hold, exhale, hold. One more time. Inhale, hold, exhale, hold. Oh, just enjoy the peace off of that. All right, we are going to get started. We're going to talk about the maintenance phase today. Get this pulled up here. Is there any wins that you want to share, Sherry?
Well, I'm back on track today.
Woohoo! Love it. Good job.
So
Good job.
I'm definitely celebrating that. And I've walked 3 days in a row. And so I'm celebrating that as well.
Congratulations. That's amazing.
Thank you.
I love it. All right, so we'll talk a little bit about the maintenance phase. So I had a couple people ask me today, kind of, how do I navigate the maintenance phase? What do I need to do? What are some tools to help through that to stay on track to not gain that weight back? So we're going to really focus on the nutrition and other factors, sleep, movement, and your mindset too. Because if you think of things like, oh, I lost something. Well, what are you going to do if you lose something? You're going to go and look for it. So don't go and look for your weight. Like, you released it, it's gone. So even just changing that mindset of, oh, I lost, 20 pounds. No, you released 20 pounds. So shifting that mindset and shifting those words help a lot to ensure your brain doesn't go looking for that weight that we quote unquote lost. So shift that word lost to release. We want to make sure that we're drinking enough water because you don't want to fall off that bandwagon. You're still flushing out toxins. You're still, especially if you're fasting, you're still flushing things out as well. So we'll go through some different tools that you can use and looking at your plate if you don't have access to that scale while you're out and about, especially at restaurants or social gatherings or holidays, just so you can build a balanced meal, even if you're not at home. So how to build your plate. So 50% leafy greens and non-starchy veggies. And half your plate should be colorful and nutrient-dense veggies. So the more colors that you eat, the more nutrients you're getting. So our eyes do correlate with colors that we're eating. So this could be a side salad, roasted or steamed veggies. It could be raw veggies. And you really want to prioritize the foods from the approved food list. So they're low glycemic, they're high in nutrients, and they help balance your blood sugar and keep that blood sugar stable so your energy remains stable. So you want to make sure that you're also eating your foods in an order that serves your body. So if you're noticing that your blood sugar is spiking, especially when you start adding in those starchy veggies, try eating your leafy greens or protein first. That might help your blood sugar not spike as much. So it gives you that fiber, which helps to slow the absorption of those carbs, which can stabilize that blood sugar. So it's just kind of a small little tweak that could make a big difference if you're feeling those blood sugar spikes or if you're seeing that on a glucometer. If you're interested in a glucometer, we can always get one for you too if you're curious to see what foods spike you or not. I found it was very interesting. I wore a glucometer myself, and we popped popcorn one night with the kids. We had a movie night. It was, we popped it on the stove. We did Kerrygold butter, and my blood sugar spiked like crazy. So I'm like, okay, good to know. Popcorn's not a good idea for me. But I wouldn't have known that if I didn't see those numbers. So that was helpful to see. So if you do the reintroduction just slowly, so that's like introducing one food, every 1 to 3 days, you can really listen to your body and see how it reacts to those foods. So you might notice maybe you eat, I don't know, maybe you add in avocados and then you feel a little bit itchy like the next day or later that day. You know that the only new thing that you added were the avocados. So by just adding one thing at a time and noting those, you can see those changes. We do have a food sensitivity test if you're interested in that. I have seen those change over time once that gut gets sealed up a little bit. So that would be another kind of way around to see if there were any foods specifically that are bothering you. But I encourage you to just get in tune with your body and know what foods actually bother you and listen to that intuition. So I also encourage you to still track your weight, your measurements, how you're feeling, how you're sleeping, and stay in tune with yourself so you don't just slowly drift off that bandwagon. So maybe you don't weigh yourself every day, but maybe it's 3 times a week. Maybe it's every other day, just to stay on track. Because then if you start falling off that bandwagon, you can quickly rein it back in instead of if you're going out to, once every 2 weeks or once a month. So try and stay on track with that to see what is affecting you, what's creating inflammation, and what is serving your body. So you might see that scale go up, you might see that scale go down. You're like, oh, wow. So for me, I did a full moon parasite cleanse this last full moon, and there was a lot of parasites. And I was like, holy cow, like I think I lost a pound of parasites. So listen to your body there. So another common question is if you can mix your complex carbs, so like your rice, your quinoa, and it really depends on your body. So but some people can do that. Some people have spikes in blood sugar with rice. So see how your body tolerates them individually before mixing them together. So once again, with the diet, some people thrive with higher fat. Some people do better with whole grains or Mediterranean or carnivore. So you're going to all be a little bit different. The other rabbit hole you could dive down is if you know your blood type. The blood type diet's actually pretty interesting to dive into and see. And I've even compared it with clients in the past of my clients that are vegetarians, my clients that are carnivores, and their blood types usually do line up. So that's been interesting to see. So you can really just keep kind of trying and get in tune with your body. So back to your plate. So half a portion of the veggies and half a serving of complex carbs, or sorry, excuse me, 25%. And it depends on how your body metabolizes them. So focusing on what works for you. No two people are the same. Maybe you need to add in a little bit of digestive enzymes if you're going out to eat or if you're eating foods that you haven't prepared yourself. So those are best to take mid-meal if you're eating foods that you're not used to eating. If you're not exercising, you might not need the extra starchy carbs or the extra protein. If you are exercising, you may want to add in those starchy carbs and that extra protein because you're going to need to rebuild that muscle that you're burning while you're exercising too. So I encourage you to invest in your protein. So really finding something that is organic, that's grass-fed, that's wild caught, that's, free range local farmer, that's going to be a lot better than what you get in the box stores. So if you're going to splurge on anything, splurge on your protein. Protein makes up a lot of your body, your muscles, your skin, your hair, your cells. So spend that little bit of extra money on a high quality protein. You want to eat 1 to 2 servings of fat. So once again, slowly incorporate those back in. If you're working out a lot or you're more active, you might need a little bit more fat than that. So that's to help with energy and hormone balance too. And eat the rainbow. So we eat with our eyes first. So the colorful foods aren't just pretty, they're actually loaded with vitamins, minerals, and phytonutrients. So sometimes people have cravings. So if you think about it, sometimes women crave chocolate before their period. Well, chocolate is really high in magnesium. So they might need a little bit more magnesium before their period. So listen to what your body is asking for and be mindful of a way that you can nourish your body and give it that magnesium that it needs, or the salt that it needs. So instead of reaching for potato chips, maybe you just put some salt in your water. So there is a book I actually have. If you're ever curious on your cravings, I have a book that can tell you why you're craving the things that you're craving. So that's been interesting to look at as well. All right, so focus on eating the rainbow. So this is an amazing way to ensure you're getting a wide range of nutrients. So this chart breaks down the different macronutrients, vitamins, minerals, phytonutrients, how to support your immune system, and where to find them in the different colorful foods. So for example, if you're craving eggs, you might be low in vitamin D. If you're craving nuts or seeds, your body could be needing more omega-3s. If you're craving dark leafy greens, you might need more magnesium or iron. So this is why a variety in your color is important, to make sure you're hitting all of those areas and all of those colors to satisfy your overall health. So when it comes to nutrition, prioritizing that protein, making sure you're getting that high quality protein. So some of the best options actually include organ meats. So liver, heart, spleen, they're really packed with vitamin A, B12, iron, copper, superfoods. There are some blends that do make like a ground beef a ground organ meat with beef mix, like a ground beef packet of organ meats. There we go. That's what I'm trying to say, that you can make like tacos with. So you wouldn't know it's organ meat because not a lot of people like to eat liver or heart or organ meats. So there are ways that you can do it to still get them in your diet and not be eating something that you don't enjoy, because you don't want to be eating foods that you don't like either. So make sure you're getting grass-fed beef. So a lot of B vitamins, iron, healthy fats in that grass-fed beef. Venison. So if you hunt, venison is really good and it's really lean and it's actually high in zinc, and that helps boost the immune system. Really good for women too, because it's really rich in iron. Wild caught fish, so salmon, sardines, mackerel, you really want to make sure you're getting wild caught and not farm raised. So even if you're looking in the fish counter, you can totally tell the difference between a wild caught and a farm raised, because the farm raised looks like really pale and not full of nutrients, and the wild caught just looks like vibrant and healthy and beautiful. So get some wild caught fish. I have found it even at Costco. They have some in the freezer section, and they have some in like the fridge, those drop down coolers. They have some wild caught salmon in there too. But omega-3 is really good for your brain, reducing inflammation, supporting your metabolism. And another thing to consider is eggs. So some people have issues with eggs. So I encourage, if you can get farm fresh, that's ideal. You can usually find some at, the natural health food stores, the co-ops. Farmers market season's coming too. So try and get those farm ones. Sometimes people react differently to the egg whites versus the egg yolks. And another idea would be trying duck eggs. If you can get duck eggs, people usually do better with duck eggs because they haven't been exposed to them before. Where chicken eggs are in everything. They could be in granola bars, they could be in cereal, they could be in, everything you've ever had your entire life has probably been chicken eggs. So try and switch to a different kind of egg, quail eggs, duck eggs, try different kind of eggs. And then bone broth, super good for collagen, glycine, minerals. You can just sip on it, really good for gut health. As long as you're not having histamine issues, it is a higher histamine food. So if you're having histamine issues, you can reach out. And then it just helps provide the building blocks for the body, supporting your digestion, your joints, and even your skin. So make sure you're getting enough protein because that is the foundation for metabolism and muscle mass too, along with vitality and overall health. So nutrient-dense veggies. So veggies, we want to keep veggies on our plate. So they're really good for different things. So for example, dark green leafies are amazing for deep sleep. Kale, spinach, and Swiss chard, I apparently can't talk today, are big on magnesium, vitamin K, and folate. And magnesium is used to help with that deep sleep too and clear your brain up. And your brain actually, drains out at night through the lymphatic system. So the better you're sleeping, the better that's going to drain out. Cruciferous veggies, you want to make sure that they're cooked because the phytoestrogens that can be activated. So sometimes after 40, especially, those can have a little bit bigger impact on you because it helps to remove that extra estrogen so the body isn't storing it. Sea veggies like kelp, so those are really good for iodine and trace minerals and some omegas. And berries are high in antioxidants and they're actually low sugar, but they taste really good and they don't taste low sugary. So that's a good sweet craving satisfaction with those berries, especially when they're in season. And with your nuts, you want to try and look for sprouted because you get high amounts of nutrients in the sprouted nuts versus non-sprouted. Also want to look for raw. So if I can find raw and sprouted, for instance, I know at Costco, they have raw sprouted pumpkin seeds. Store your nuts in the fridge because you don't want the oils to go bad. So store them in the fridge, especially if they come in a massive bag, then they're going to keep longer. Also, remember to chew your food. Your stomach doesn't have teeth. So if you're just scarfing everything down and not chewing it, you're not going to absorb those nutrients. So make sure you're sitting, you're calm, you're chewing that food, you're chilling out, you're taking that time to enjoy that meal. So some healthy fats to cook with. So once you're in maintenance, you can add the fats back in. So I've noticed on the intake forms, a lot of people put their go-to oil as olive oil. So it's not the worst option out there, but we really don't want to be cooking at higher heats with olive oil because anytime you cook above an oil smoke point, it can go rancid. So olive oil is better for, cold dressings or drizzling over your food once it's already cooked versus cooking with the olive oil. So I would recommend more avocado oil, beef tallow, ghee, coconut oil. Those are your higher temps oils, especially when you're cooking in the oven. So they do help nourish your skin, fuel your brain. We do have to add those fats back in maintenance. So please add them back in because your brain does need fat to function. Your skin does need fat. Your body needs fat. Your brain is essentially fat. So we need those fats to fuel our body. So the higher heat oils, they actually retain their nutrient values even under the high temperatures, where the lower ones break down and get rancid. So we don't want to do that because rancid oil is going to cause inflammation in the body. So you can kind of vary what you're using to cook with, but stick with more of those higher heat oils. All right, so breakfast, another common question. Should I eat breakfast? I feel super great fasting. How do I add breakfast back in? If you want to have breakfast, you can. If you don't want to have breakfast, that's okay too. So I find that people usually like to stay on that fasting regimen, and that's completely fine. And maybe on the weekends, they add breakfast in. So a couple days a week, if you want to add breakfast in, that's perfect. I do still encourage if you want to add breakfast in every day for 2 to 3 days a week, skip it because you want to ensure that you're keeping that fasting window. You're still activating that autophagy and you're not going back in the habits of eating and snacking throughout the day. So give yourself grace if you want to have breakfast and add that in. And if you don't want to, don't feel pressured to add that in either. So some ideas for breakfast. So you want to make sure that you have a quality protein and a fruit. So if you have fruit at breakfast, maybe you don't need it again at dinner. Maybe you're just starting your breakfast with more protein. So you could do scrambled eggs with veggies and a side of berries. You could do some turkey sausage with sweet potato mash. So you could do chia seed pudding. So that would be like with coconut milk, almond butter, fresh berries. So that'd be high in protein, fiber, and healthy fats. And that's kind of like a treat for breakfast. You could do smoked salmon, cottage cheese, avocado, and cucumber. So those could be little bite-sized snacks. That would be a different breakfast to try that you may not have done before. So don't be afraid to switch it up and try different things that you didn't do prior to the reset. So just stick with those whole nutrient dense foods. The problem with breakfast is I feel like the standard American diet just focuses on bagels and cereal and a whole bunch of carbs. And we don't want to do that and yogurt. I'm sorry, yogurt is not a good idea really either. It's got a lot of sugar in it and a lot of added crap. So stay away from the process, and dairy is super inflammatory. So how to grocery shop? So make sure that you're looking on the parameters of the store. So if you look at the layout of the store, usually the outside edges have all the healthy food. The inside, the middle of the grocery store has all the processed food. So we want to stick to avoiding the temptation of those processed foods. So stick to the outside of the store. That's where you're going to find, your produce, your meats, the deli, the butcher, all of the fresh things that we want to stay on plan with. So some other tips: don't shop on an empty stomach, because if you're hungry, you're going to impulse buy things that you wouldn't normally grab. Stick to the perimeter. So if you need like a specific seasoning or a specific dressing, like just walk down there, grab it, and walk out. Like don't get stuck in there browsing, or you're going to grab things you might not need. Read ingredient labels carefully. So if you don't trust what's on the front, if something says natural, that doesn't mean anything. So flip it over, read the back, and actually read the ingredients label, because you want to make sure that it's whole-based food ingredients, not a whole bunch of preservatives and synthetics and things that you don't even know how to pronounce. If you can't pronounce the name on the label, it's probably not good for you. So you can upgrade your favorite foods. So you can add more things. Maybe you love burgers. Maybe you skip the bun, but you put a whole bunch of veggies and toppings on it. Like that just up levels your burger. So find a version that makes it enjoyable for you, and so you're not missing out. So the closer you can get to quality for food, the better. So if you have farmers markets, if you have local people, that is a better option than the big box stores too, because it's not driving in a semi across the country and all the enzymes are breaking down. So locally grown, if you can, that would be ideal, because the local foods are actually grown in the same soil where you live. So that means it's supporting the microbiomes in your gut for your region. So your microbiome is connected to the environment around you. So the local foods help support that microbiome. So make sure you're looking for the hidden sugars. I'll have to find the sheet of the 75 different names of sugar. So there are a lot of different names for sugar. Make sure you read those labels. So anything that really ends with ose, like dextrose, fructose, sucralose, all of those are usually just a code name for sugar. So make sure you're not adding that extra sugar back in. You can also shop in season. So seasonal produce is fresher and more nutrient dense, especially for your area. I can share the website to find the seasonal produce that is in season for your state. And that's going to help your gut and your microbiome too, to be able to switch those foods up in the season for where you live. And don't forget to overlook the frozen aisle. So frozen produce is actually a really good option because it's usually frozen at its peak. So peak ripeness, locking in those nutrients, and it's usually more affordable. So then you have a food in your freezer that you can always grab that's a little bit cheaper and still has the nutrients in it too. So choose whole food healthy swaps. So it doesn't mean that you have to give things up, but you can swap things out to make them better just by changing the vehicle you're using to eat it. So for tacos, instead of using tortillas, you could use some lettuce wraps. So same with rice. Instead of regular rice, you can use cauliflower rice. And the funny thing with that was when I did the reset, I did a lot of cauliflower rice, like burrito bowls. My husband to this day is like, please don't make regular rice again. Like, I just want that cauliflower rice all the time because it tastes better. I'm like, wow, that's awesome. So you might find that you actually like it better because you feel better with it. You could also try broccoli rice. If you have a ricer, you could make it, or even a food processor, you can make your own rice, or they make it frozen in the freezer section at your grocery store. They have them in bags as well. So you can add in a lot of different things to a cauliflower rice bowl. You can do steak, you can do a burrito bowl, you can do chicken. I've made it with pad thai and cauliflower rice. So you can do a lot of different flavors with that rice as well. And zoodles. Zoodles are a good option to still get your pasta craving, or spaghetti squash to still get that pasta craving without the pasta. So just start trying to swap things out. Feel free to ask me, because there are things that I have tried that are quote unquote replacements that do not taste good. So if you want to ask me and reach out for that, I'm always here for you as well. All right. So what agreements are you making with yourself? So are you agreeing to get outside every day? Are you agreeing to stay on plan? Are you spending a few minutes each day working on yourself? Maybe that's journaling. Maybe that's positive affirmations. Maybe that's, devotional reading in the morning. Are you sticking to staying gluten-free? And are you finding what works for you and choosing that? So you want to make sure that you're, staying accountable to yourself too, because we don't want to go back to that old identity. So you have adopted a new identity, you've released weight, you've, decreased your stress, your nervous system has calmed down. We want to stay in that state and not go back. So if you have any issues with that, you can always reach out to me too. We can do another round of the reset. It just helps keep you level and grounded.